Hi, my name is Carolina and I'm in Year 6. Today I'll be presenting a diagram of a flower showing its structure, characteristics, and how each part has adapted to help the plant survive and reproduce. A flower isn't something that is just beautiful, it is actually a reproductive structure of a plant. Every part has its own special job that helps the plant make new life. Alright, starting from the bottom, we've got the stem. The stem holds the flower upright and connects it to the rest of the plant. It's adapted with tiny tubes that carry the water and nutrients up from the roots and into the flower, and food from the leaves back down into the roots. Its strength and flexibility help survive the wind and rain without breaking. Second, we've got the sepal. The sepal are the green leaf parts usually found at the base of a flower. They help protect the flower bud before it opens, a bit like a shield. They've adapted to be tough and sometimes even hairy to help insects and animals from eating the bud or damaging it before it blooms. Third, we've got the petal. It often comes in bright and colourful colours and sometimes even have patterns called the nectar guides. They've adapted this way to help attract pollinators like bees, butterflies and birds. Some flowers even have scented petals to help pollinators find them from far away. Fourthly, we have the filament and the anther. These two together make up the stamen, which is the male part of the flower. The filament is a thin stalk that holds up the anther high so that the wind and insects can reach it easily. Then we've got the anther. The anther is the pollen, which contains the male cells. This design helps pollen spread easily, and it is an adaptation that increases the chances of reproduction. Lastly, we've got the stigma, style, ovary, and ovule. These parts of the plants make up the pistil, which is the female part of the flower. The stigma is sticky so it catches pollen easily, and it is an adaptation that helps pollen succeed. The style acts like a tube that helps carry the pollen down into the ovary. The ovary is a membrane that helps protect the ovules, which are the future seeds. Today I'll be showing you my flower model and demonstrating how it goes together. This is a 25-piece interactive flower puzzle I created to represent the structure, characteristics, layers, and reproductive system of a flower. As I start putting it together, you'll notice that each piece is connected using small magnets so that it only fits correctly when all the parts are placed in the correct positions. I've made each part using foam clay, which is a soft material, easy to shape and safe for classroom use. I then use craft glue to attach the magnets to the connecting points. This means teachers and students can easily create this model themselves with affordable and accessible materials. Let's start building it together. First, I'll do the small little pieces. As you can see, all the details, even the smallest little piece, have the little magnets on it. We've got the anther that connects to the filament. As you can see, it only clicks in when it's on the right way. Once we've got that done, we're going to start assembling the base, which is the stem. This supports the whole flower. After that, we will add the sepals around the base. See how it just clicks in when it's in the right spot. Next, I'll place the ovule inside of the ovaries. The ovules are the seeds. Then I will shove the ovary. Attach that to the stem. Next, we will assemble the petals. So they won't click in if they are in the correct spaces. After we've done that, we will now attach the stigma and the style. After that, we have the filament and the anther, which is the male parts. Attach that to little magnets on the side. Then here you've got the working model. Once all the pieces are connected, you can see the full structure of the flower. This project aligns directly with the Stage 3 Science and Technology syllabus. The construction of the interactive flower model allows students to demonstrate several key outcomes. ST3 SC101. Before I started making my model, I first did some research to find out what the main parts of a flower are, what the functions are, and how they have adapted to help the plant survive and reproduce. It has also helped me recognize that when we understand how plants reproduce, we can use that knowledge to protect our ecosystem and grow plants more sustainably. ST3PQU01. During the project, I asked scientific questions to help me learn, such as why are some flowers higher than others, and why does the pollen get from the anther to the ovary? These questions help guide my observations during the making. I also tested my prototype, making changes to the material, shape, and connection of each magnetic piece to see what worked best. ST3DAT01. When I finished researching and testing my prototype, I compared my notes, diagram, and observations from real flowers to my model. I used this information to make sure that each part of my flower was positioned correctly and matched what happens in nature. This showed that I could use my evidence from my research and investigations to support my explanations about how reproduction happens in plants. ST3DDT01. I followed the full design process when creating my flower model. First, I researched and planned my idea using sketches and notes. Next, I designed and built my prototype using clay foam and magnets to see how all the parts would fit together. After testing the prototype, I evaluated it and made modifications to improve how easily the parts could be taken apart and reconnected. Finally, I built the finished version and checked it against my research to make sure it looked and worked like a real flower. By following these steps, I learned how important it is to test ideas and improve them through problem solving and feedback. ST3CWT01. Before building my model, I created a labeled diagram and wrote short explanations describing what each flower does and how it contributes to reproduction. Through this, I learned how to clearly communicate scientific ideas using both words and visuals. Under the topic living things may change over millions of years in response to their environment, I have covered the content of observed behavioral and structural adaptations of plants, suggest how these may help them survive in their environments. And another content would be examine and explain how the characteristics of flowers are adaptations for reproductions in plants. Before the construction of the flower model, I considered prior skills that the students already had developed in Stage 1 and Stage 2. These stages provide the essential foundation for students to successfully observe, design, and communicate their scientific understanding. In Stage 1, students learned to recognize that data can be collected through observation. They observed and recorded changes in plants over time, for example, noting differences in height. They also learned how to describe the changes in a plant as it grows using the collected data in simple scientific models such as diagrams or growth charts. These experiences taught them that science involves careful observation, evidence, and explanation. In Stage 2, students built on different foundational abilities by learning to observe and describe living and non-living things in the habitat. They begin to understand the interdependence between plants, animals, and their environment. Students also learn to describe and transfer of energy between plants using Tier 2 and Tier 3 vocabulary such as producer, consumer, and energy flow. This expanded their use of scientific language and improved their ability to explain relationships between living things. These skills carried directly into the flower model project as students were already confident in observing structures and identifying challenges and changes with accuracy. The scientific concepts that students already learned in their earlier stages and how these ideas build towards their new learning in Stage 3. In the early stages, students begin developing a basic understanding of how plants grow and how they need to survive, and what they need to survive. In Stage 1, students learn that plants grow and change over time and that they need sunlight and water and soil to stay alive. They also recognize that all living things have basic needs for survival, and the plants make their own food through sunlight and water. By Stage 2, students started to explore more complex ideas about how plants survive in different conditions. They learned to describe how plants adapt to various habitats and to recognize the structural features that help them survive. These ideas prepared students to think about the structure and function, the idea that a plant's features are shaped by what they need to do to survive. In Stage 3, students extended these understandings into reproduction and adaptation. They recognized the stages of plant reproduction from pollination to fertilization and seed development. They also recognized that living things have adaptations to help them survive and reproduce in changing environments. Finally, they identified the main parts of a flower and describe each part's function and reproduction, including the stamen, pistil, stigma, and ovary. These science concepts from Stage 1 through to Stage 3 show a clear learning progression from understanding how plants survive to recognizing how they adapt and finally explaining how they reproduce. Before constructing the model, students will be engaged in 4 lesson sequence that I've designed to scaffold their understanding. In the first lesson, students will revisit what they already know about plants using a digital concept mapping activity. They will connect terms such as flower pollination, seed growth, and adaptation. This can help students activate their prior knowledge and recognize gaps in their understanding. According to Branford's Brown and Koch in 2000, activating prior knowledge is essential for meaningful learning because it allows students to link new information to what they already know. In the second lesson, students will be examined on scientific diagrams of flowers. The teacher will model how to label and color each part and explaining its function. Then students will then produce their own diagrams of the labels and short written explanations for their functions. The visual approach supports disciplinary literacy, as noted by Callow 2013, who found that multimodal learning using both text and visuals enhances comprehension of abstract scientific concepts. By engaging with diagrams, students can build confidence in scientific language and visual reasoning. In the third lesson, students will participate in a flower dissection using magnifying glasses and tweezers to identify the reproductive system and the structure. This will be recorded their observations will be recorded in their science journals through annotated drawings. This tactile investigation allows students to engage in authentic scientific inquiry and observation. According to Burney and Wollstonecraft 2007, practical sensory learning experiences deepen students' understanding of scientific vocabulary and concepts by learning language in real-world observations. This lesson can help students move from abstract knowledge to concrete understanding. Lesson 4. In the fourth lesson, we'll start off with a yarning circle, allowing students to discuss and share what they've discovered and learnt. This collaborative dialogue can help me identify misconceptions and provide a formative assessment opportunity. This use of yarning aligns with Aboriginal pedagogy's approaches, fostering inclusive, respectful, and reflective learning through storytelling and dialogue. This method also reflects Vygotsky's 1978 views that learning is a social process where students co-construct knowledge through communication. After the yarning circle, students will be moved into designing and constructing their prototype models using foam, clay, and magnets. Before conducting this practical activity, there will be a risk assessment to ensure that students could safely construct and handle their flower models in accordance to the New South Wales Department of Education's science safety requirements. Investigation name will be the structure and reproduction of flowers, and the aim of this investigation will be for students to safely construct them and manipulate a 3D model of a flower to demonstrate an understanding of adaptation, function, and reproductive system. No hazardous or dangerous chemicals are used during this investigation. Students only handle foam, clay, magnets, and adhesive, all which are non-toxic and safe for classroom use. Source and safety information, safety protocols are based on the New South Wales Department of Education's science safety guidelines and the school's work health safety policy. These documents provide direction for conducting low-risk scientific activities in primary settings, including appropriate supervision and management of classroom materials. Although this activity is low risk, several minor hazards were identified. Small magnets could pose a choking hazard if misused. Foam, clay, and adhesive could cause mild skin irritation for some students. And the overall risk for this activity is assessed as low. To control the risk, students will be closely supervised during all construction activities. They will be reminded to not place materials near their mouth and to wash their hands thoroughly after handling clay and adhesives. These precautions ensure that the students can complete the investigation safely and confidently. Assessment opportunities were integrated into all these lessons, and for formative assessment that you'll be able to see in yarning circles, so discussions, and this can help monitor the students' understanding of the lessons and content. So for summative assessment, you will be able to clearly tell in their final 3D flower model to see if they have clearly grasped the content. This project connects strongly with other learning areas. In English, students develop literacy by writing explanations using scientific vocabulary. In creative arts, they applied design and color principles to create visually accurate models. And in HSIE, they explored how plants reproduction supports sustainable ecosystems. In this project, it is also embedded general capabilities, including literacy, critical and creative thinking, and ethical understanding. These students use scientific language, designed creative solutions, and worked responsibly with materials. They also link to cross-curriculum priorities such as through sustainability. Students recognize that plant reproduction is vital for ecosystem health and food production. Through Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures, they learn to value Indigenous ecological knowledge about native plants used for food, medicine, and caring for country.